Can we just go ahead? Can I start? Can we make it a single thing?
Yes, ma'am, we can start. Please start.
Yeah. Sarita ji?
Yes, ma'am.
You make it, bigger slide, no? Single one. Bigger slide.
Okay, ma'am.
Slideshow bana dijiye. Because it will be big. Otherwise, some information will not be seen that way.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
हेलो मैम शो हो रहा है अभी
शो हो रहा है पर इसको ना ऐसे नहीं सिंगल स्लाइड शो बना दीजिए स्लाइड शो बिकॉज
स्लाइड
बिकम
मैम
बिगर
हाँ मेरे पास तो चल रहा है सिंगल स्लाइड आपके पास नहीं चल रहा क्या
नहीं सिंगल स्लाइड नहीं ये बगल वाला है ना उसको निकाल दीजिए आई मीन यू हैव टू मेक इट नीचे जाइए यू हैव टू मेक इट
हमारे पास सिंगल स्लाइड दिख रहा है एक सेकेंड
बड़ा कर दीजिए उसको
बड़ा तो दिख रहा है स्लाइड की कंट्रोल है ना स्लाइड कंट्रोल पे देखो क्या नहीं होगा
Can you make anyone else as co-host? They will handle it.
ठीक है मैम आप बता दीजिए मैं किसको बना दूं
रितु
मैम हम यहाँ से कर रहे हैं तो फुल स्लाइड मेरे को शो हो रहा है बट आप लोगों को फुल स्लाइड शो नहीं हो रहा
आप ना ये नीचे जाइए देन यू विल हैव
सर मेरी तो अभी स्टार्ट ही हो रही है इसमें प्रॉब्लम चल रही है स्लाइड का प्रॉब्लम चल रहा है हमारे यहाँ पे सर फुल स्लाइड शो हो रही है बट उनको नहीं दिख रहा है
तुम्हारी क्लास नहीं चल रही कोई चल रही हो अमित जैन सर का तो चलते रहता है ऐसे
अनिल करता रहता है
Miss Ritu, can I ask your name to be a co-host so that you can handle?
Okay, ma'am. Let me log in from my laptop.
Yeah. Sarita ji, Ritu Mishra को बना दीजिएगा co-host. She can handle it.
ओके मैम ठीक है तो मैम उनको मैं पीपीटी मैं उनको मेल कर दूं
नहीं हाँ
उनको मेल करनी पड़ेगी ना मैम पीपीटी हाँ हाँ
और पार्टिसिपेंट तो सही दिखा रहा है
मैम रितु कोचर मिश्रा हो ना?
Yeah. Ritu Kochi.
Yes, ma'am.
ओके मैम आप मेल करोगे रितु मैम को या मैं मेल कर दूं? हेलो रितु मैम,
Yes, ma'am.
मैं आपको मेल कर दूं पीपीटी?
मैम कर दीजिए प्लीज, मेरा
एक
ईमेल है ना आपके पास, आप कर दीजिए।
रजिस्ट्रेशन नंबर बताना पड़ेगा, फिर मैं चेक करूंगी, या तो आप मेरे को मेल आईडी अभी दे दो तो मैं साथ के साथ मेल कर देती हूँ।
मैम 26701 रजिस्ट्रेशन आईडी है,
एक
अदरवाइज
सेकंड एक सेकंड थोड़ा सा। हाँ
आते अरे क्या कुछ रगड़ रहा है मेरे पास, हाय रगड़ 2 मिनट बताओ।
हेलो, हाँ बोलो। हेलो रितु मैम,
यस मैम।
आप एक बार चेक कर लीजिए मेल, मैंने मेल किया आपको अभी।
अभी आई नहीं है मेल, में चेक करती हूँ दोबारा, रिफ्रेश करके देखती हूँ।
Am I visible now?
Ma'am? Sagi ma'am?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes. Should I start?
Please, please. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for this. And I'm very, very sorry. Please do bear. 2, 3, my iPad, my phone, not accepting phone. Both are not helping me today. I'm extremely sorry for this. Thanks for sharing, Ritu.
So yes, ma'am, you can say next and I'll take you to the next line.
Yes, yes. Okay. Participants, today we are going to talk about design thinking as part of innovation and change management. Although it has really got the attention, but as a design, as a model, or as a pattern, design thinking is not just that new, but as innovation is made its highlights in the world in the process of changing and making better things, and then empathizing with certain existing models and giving services. So the design thinking has become part of everybody. Earlier, only the manufacturer were thinking about the design thinking to break certain old patterns and bring it into new things. But now innovation has become important feature because we want to solve so many problems around. Okay, so what is this innovation and design thinking that brings that is going to solve is many problems in the world of business are looking for solutions that will be simplified, that is cost effective, that is multi-folded beneficial to more sections of the people, and that also becomes one of the key features with innovation and with more elevated interventions in that kind of model. So that's where innovation has brought in, rather it's become an imperative for making innovation to take design thinking as one of its arm, because to change, to improvise designs, and everything that we're going to pay more is because its design is different. And every new version, when we call it version, it's coming with a new feature, new design, and each design is not per se as a design, it's going to serve us with certain kind of benefits, with some certain kind of problems being solved in the new versions, and it is empathizing with certain range of customers who needs certain solutions with less expensive things, right? So that's why design thinking has become a great source of talking and doing certain things. And that's where innovation and change is never complete without talking about design thinking. When we talk about organizational development, the development, let's say that we talked about Nokia, we talked about Kodak, we talked about certain areas of Reebok, the way it has failed. We talked about so many things because they were failing to upgrade onto R&D or a design further, which will help them to sustain. The word sustain is something very costly after some point, because once you've arranged yourself into a different foray and you're enjoying a different market, you're not talking about sustain, you're talking about to ruling the market. And how does that happen unless you bring in certain features of your product which is phenomenally greater than the others, and you are the one who's as a prime move to talk about it, and that's what makes you as the first person to bring in certain changes, right? So that's why the design thinking is the most upbeated discussion or the most important. And the Western societies, in the schools already, children started talking, children started attending so many workshops on design thinking to solve the daily mundane things or mundane issues can also be solved by kids too, by applying certain thought processes, learning through techniques to processes by the design thinking modus, right? Now, technology shifts is making us to think in those things, technology on in our favor to bring in certain, wide variety of changes. And then we do have support systems and shifting demographics, right? Now, supply chains are also changing shifts. Now, earlier it was there in the Western societies, Western countries, the production and supply chain. All the supply chains now is into Southeast Asia, and mainly China has become the factory of the world. You do have a lot of supply chains getting shifted to, and that's where you need more other kind of features and other kind of activities that supports you. And then that also demands more change, more innovation, and definitely it's helping, right? Market shifts, right? And they were not looking at the developing nations the way they are looking at now. So last 15 years is a phenomenal a shift that has happened to India or other countries who are gearing up into the international market, whether it is exports, whether it is collaboration, joint ventures, or mergers and acquisitions, or even franchises happening there in India. It's a great time to really see most of the international companies working, right? So this is the scenario of a ecosystem which is getting built around the developing nations. And to really get benefited out of that ecosystem, what do we do? And how do we really plan our organization development? And how do we really go for innovation and change? Is matter a lot of thought process goes into from every company, right? So design thinking develop solutions is to innovate, to human-centered ideas, to inspire. If you see some of the interventions of Mitsubishi or Honda per se, Honda is giving a single chair car kind of thing, because it can get into the car and it can also get out of the car. And an old person, because the society is so grown old, it's like a majority. No, it's crisis at the same time, it's challenge at the same time. It is making to innovate so many products to suit to the old age population, right? So majority of the design thinking innovations which is coming to solve the old age issues in Japan, it's fantastic. It's mind blowing to look at the problems being solved through the designs that they're making, each company. So each company has got their own responsibility out of their CSR or the responsible giving back to the society. They're doing so many product innovations and process innovations to suit to their public, and especially the public is old age, right? So the Honda has come out with one chair which is fitted with a motor. An old age person can sit onto it and can drive it as if he's sitting in his own drawing room, and straight away he can go into his own drawing room and then come on. So every time they commute, they're commuting not necessarily a big car, but they can even commute through a single chair car which is fitted with a motor. So these are solutions. This is a very different design that you think about it, right? And it's got a purpose to solve somebody's problem. An old age person is not able to drive a big car, but he has to commute. At the same time, he cannot walk. So what is the solution? The solution is give them this kind of fitted motor onto their own chair, and that goes into their room wherever they would like to, and from there they can walk out of the house. Of course, the whole ecosystem is so fantastically built because their roads, their houses are all very interconnected and seamlessly being upgraded to that level of innovation that suits to them, right? And countries like India, we have seen Godrej has made one good in innovation process in the area of refrigerator, that's called Chota Cool. You can Google it. Chota Cool is a very beautiful innovation process. It's like a very mini refrigerator, right? So it's for the poorer section. They also can have the refrigerator, but a lot of work went into it to make a small refrigerator, because what is a compressor size and how much you are supposed to make this insulin and so on. I think most of the R&D which went into it is a fantastic job, and Chota Cool that way has made headlines 5 to 7 years back when it has come exclusively for that kind of price range, and looking at the poorer sections to have the refrigerator. So if you want to talk about it, there are many more things, which is now either it is social entrepreneurship or the social innovation or the design based solutions to be given to certain sectors or certain sections of the people. I think design thinking is helping a great deal, right? So that is where human-centered ideas and issues are being discussed to inspire with more varieties of things, to inspire, because this is the era of convergence. Huh? We are living in the era of convergence, because what is convergence all about? You get everything in one single page. You get everything into one single gadget. So one gadget should be doing many more multiple things. Earlier, we were having what do you call, a calculator separate. We were having a camera separate. We were having a kind of notes taking gadgets separate. There are separate gadgets for separate activities. Today, one single phone is doing all the jobs. So it's like the era of convergence. And in the process of this, the design thinking is a greatest tool, greatest technique and the process that will intervene and enhance the product's visibility and benefit to customer and value proposition that can bring by the design thinking is greater. It's very great, and that's the reason it's inspired. Okay, next one, please. You can go to the next one, Ritu. Yeah, thank you. So design thinking is a double diamond process model is being discussed. Is it second one? Next one? Okay. No. What I'm saying is it the side? Yeah. The 5 steps of design thinking process is empathize, define, ideate, prototype, test, and then build. Build is the last one, but after the test, we try to make it as a commercial or not. That's the thought process. Why do we want a word called empathize? What is it we are giving to the customer? And is it fine? Can it be redefined? Can it be sophisticated? Can it be fine-tuned? If this is what is a thought process of a manufacturer, we're talking it in terms of empathizing with the customers and empathizing with the situation, that what else we can offer and what else can be very handy, right? When you're buying a water bottle in the morning, when you're commuting in a metro or tube in London, in the morning you're buying a bottle, and after some point you'll be so worried to carry that bottle because the cap of that bottle should be properly intact, put, otherwise you will have the water spill over everywhere in your bag. So what is it? It's a very, very silly concern, but it has a bigger result, because your clothes get wet, your important papers can get wet, and that's the reason I think a very small different intervention being done in the design of a small cap by one of the companies, those who are selling the water, is like, there will be a connecting belt to the cap to the bottle, and it is like, you can have it without even turn for more than 48 hours. Means a number of flip flop that you do, it still can withstand that kind of pressure, and after 3 days I think the cap is by itself, and then you don't have to hold it together. But till that 48 hours, the cap is intact with the bottle. You just have to open it and put it, because you're not worried whether it is properly intact or not. So these kind of interventions, these kind of improvisations, this kind of thought process definitely is part of the workshops of the design thinking. Although certain problems look very silly, but if you really solve them, there's a great results out of it, and there's a great appreciation from the customers. So empathizing first, in the first level, with the customers and the benefits that they're getting out of your product. Then define what is that you have to do, what is doable, what is not doable at your end, to give certain changes to your product. So that's how you define the whole scenario of what is that you can do, whether it is material wise, metal wise, design wise, size wise, shape wise, or any other color wise, or any other extra features wise. Please do define the process, that how do you think that you can, or is it going to go with some phases, or straight away you can do it, right? Then locate, how do you do it, at what place you can do it, or at what intervention that you think that you can bring these changes, whether it is product wise, process wise, or place wise, right? Let's say that some of the variations, some of the variants of the car segments have not come to India, whether Ford is there, but Ford has not brought all the variants, right? So is the case with so many companies would like to think in terms of, I would like to see that this particular change happens only into the developed markets, but the later part of the changes can come to the developing nations in the latest stages. So you're trying to think in terms of how do you bring that kind of changes to greater scales. So scale of operations also you're thinking, and you're also trying to talk about locating the problem, locating your process, where do you want to do it, locating your process being dissipated, whether you want to give it to everyone at the same stage to all the markets, or segments wise, or regional locations wise, or geographically you're trying to say that I'll just hit the developing market, then I'll go to the developed market. It's up to you the way you are functioning. It's up to you the way you are solving the problem. Next, prototyping. This is very important area where you are trying to design it and you're done with it and you are very satisfied that you're confirmed that this is going to solve the problem or this is going to elevate your branding and it's definitely come up with a better version of what it was earlier. And now you're making it a prototype and then you're testing it. So this is the a 5-stage process of a design thinking. Let it be any service, let it be any production process, but these 5 are very important. Unless you empathize with the present scenario of a customer satisfaction, unless you think that you want to give better, unless you think that you are empathizing that what I've given is not better, I would like to give much more, and I want to make it the best. So unless you start with that from the factory or from the point of view that you would like to facilitate a customer, your design thinking is not going anywhere, right? So that's where the starting point is. So we'll just take a quickly recap of it. What is it? Empathize, define, ideate in a way that you're also trying to ideate for suitable to certain locations, right? Ideate and then prototype and then test. Okay, next. Next one, please.
It actually freezes if I don't move. So just give me a moment. I'll change
Yeah,
it.
sure.
Is this fine?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now the 5 phases of the design process is, it is definitely a structured approach to generating and developing the new ideas and in whichever segment or the sector that you are into and you want to initiate certain design thinking processes. So first one is discovery. What do you discover and how do you discover? And what is that going to have an impact for your entire line of production process after you're discovering certain changes to be made? Okay. Um, um, Either it's a complaint or a feedback from the customer, or the company itself wants to say that I have a challenge, I want to solve it, right? So how do I approach it? How do I approach it? So you're trying to talk in terms of discovering or identifying, right? Next, interpretation, right? So I learned something, how do I interpret it, right? So how do you interpret? Whether it's a process, it's a product problem, or it's a delivery, or it's a utility issue, or it's the customer's specific needs. How do you interpret the challenge? And the solution that you're going to give is going to affect what, right? So that's an interpretation. That's a very important stage of your interpretation. Next, you're going for the ideation, right? So why we ideating? We're ideating to better the product. We're ideating to benefit the customer. We're ideating to give the multifold, features, which would make our branding more sustainable, branding more great positioning ourselves. That is branding wise, that's marketing wise. Another one is great customer care, customer satisfaction will come back to you. And most importantly, this is the result of what you got as a feedback earlier with the existing feature or with the existing product type. people have given you feedback and you're acting on it, and that's a great respect that you're going to get from the customer, because you're definitely concerned about their feedback and you're taking action. So that's where ideation has got a purpose over here, to solve the problem, to redefine, to fine tune, to sophisticate the present variant. Okay, so so an opportunity, everything, every feedback is bringing you an opportunity to fine tune yourself. Everything, whether it is an individual or a company, every feedback is a great opportunity for us to redefine ourselves, to reshape ourselves, to bring into a different kind of, shape or a design. So that's a great opportunity. Next, fourth one, we're trying to have a kind of experimentation. Okay, how do I build it? Can I do it? Or is it on phases that I do it? So it depends upon what is your scale of operation, depends upon who you're serving, it depends upon what matured market, or is it a developing or a developed market that you are already, or it's a highly technologically advanced market that you are into. So that is going to, the external circumstances are the one which is going to decide, rather make you work accordingly, because that's what is giving the direction. So although you have your own direction, that's how do you want to do it, but mostly it is the external market conditions which actually dictates us to finish certain things or only bring these features into that country, because that's the external market scenario. That's the reason your experimentation is going into. Okay, next one is, the fifth one is evolution, and that's where you are in entire putting all of them, then you're trying to get evolved, right, the evolutions process. So I tried something, and how do I evolve it? So whatever you're thinking, whatever you're put, whatever the new feature and the new idea, a new fold or a new change that you made to a process or a product, how do you go with it, and how do you want to make it into a prototype and test it and then make it and build it and then commercialize it. So this is where the stages of evolution, 4 to 5 levels of evolution, that will help you to go further and concretize on your idea and see to that you are marketing it, you're trying to build on it, you're trying to make it into mass production, and you're trying to make a different variant and into the market with the new thing. That is also possible. Okay, next one. Yeah, it's a double diamond model as a process model, because if you want to do it, so it's like first discover what is it, and then define again what is it that you would like to do, then develop, and what kind of things that you want to promise to the customer, and what are you going to give in them. So that's where you are developing, and then you go for the deliver, right? And what works and how does it work, and in your marketplaces, different levels of marketplaces, uh, you know uh, surplus is there, sometimes there is a deficiency for certain things, there's so much of competition in some areas. So it depends upon in which market you are, and that's where your deliverables and your how do you want to deliver also makes a lot of sense. It's a, the first one is discover and define. You, lot of ruminating has to happen, that means a lot of brain thought process has to go here, and you brood a lot in how do you want to define your design, and how do you want to make sure that it stands very separately and exclusive, and what are the things that you're going to offer is not offered, or even if others are offering, you still definitely stand different in the marketplace. So to make that happen, a lot of time, a lot of brainstorming has to happen. The first one is, how do you really think that this is different? So discovering that, then defining that, yes, this is my approach to solve this problem, and then I go ahead with this kind of idea or a design or a more or a prototype or a launch into a different angle. So that's your defining process, and then you develop ultimately, then you deliver. So the 4 Ds will actually Great. So one is a planning thing, another one is a shipping thing. Before you go to from plan to initial thing to plan and then to deliver, the 4 stages are definitely are 2 couples of things that you do. One is discover, define, and then halt, and then make it into a kind of developing model, and then you develop, and then you build on it, and then you make it a product or a process deliverable, and then you deliver it. So that's where discover, define, develop, and deliver is like double diamond process model. So you need to pay attention to all the 4, and each one of them has got a couple of things. That is, each one has got a set of 2 things into it, and which you are supposed to pay attention to. That will take you to the next level of a process in a very smooth way and very constructive way and very organic way, right? Next, the implementation. Okay. In the implementation, one thing is for sure, you are so dependent on technology, right? So what can technology do and how feasible it is? So does technology help you? Yes, it is. It helps you, it facilitates you. And that's where you think in terms of feasibility of using certain technology interventions into your design thinking. Next. Most importantly, you are trying to pair 2 things simultaneously, is technology and people. How do you think that people are going to benefit, and what are the basic desires of the people and needs of the people? More than desire, needs of the people, that is supposed to be taken care by you as part of your process or as part of your product, which is promising them to something. So that's where you're trying to take the immediate help called technology to solve certain things and to address certain needs of the people, right? Then the third thing is, invariably, what are you going to do with what kind of activity you're going to do is nothing but your business model, right? So that's your business. So viable, is it viable to do certain things into a certain kind of countries or certain kind of models or certain kind of initiatives or certain kind of designs, right? Is it sustainable, doable, viable, and is it sustainable to continue for long term? Then what value is going to get or give to the customers, right? So these are 3 important aspects, right? So in the 3 processes, all of them are, I mean, all the 3 are very, very interconnected. Through your business, you're going to solve certain issues of the people's aspirations, and then you're going to also enhance certain products to suit to the needs of the people, and you're definitely taking the help of technology. That's where technology business is going to solve certain issues of people in the way that they're expecting some their daily mundane problems to use certain services or the products. That's where you're addressing to the desires and the needs of the people, right? So next, in the process of it, what are you going to derive it? Functional innovation. Some things are very functional. So you may have to change certain things because that's into a functional model, right? So functional innovation, process innovation, innovation directly as a hub of it, then emotional innovation. So, when you go to a doctor earlier, some procedures of the operations were a bit, lengthy and very painful. Today, whether it is cancer, whether it is stitching of your sutures and then removing, there's nothing called removing, it automatically gets subsided with the skin. So it's a kind of, pain and emotion that an individual go through during their operation is being minimized because you have taken care of some healthcare innovations, healthcare interventions in the process of seizures, in the process of implantations, have made so beautifully. That's where the emotion of an individual, that the anxiety of an individual who is going through that crisis of attending to that operation is so brought down, because that's a great customer experience as a patient is going through. So that's an emotional innovation, right? Okay, next.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Mhm.
Yeah. Ma'am, what is the difference between functional and process innovation? If you could kindly let us know through an example.
Can you repeat what? Yeah, yeah.
The difference between functional innovation and process innovation. I mean, through an example, if you could kindly
Yeah.
explain it.
Yeah. Let's say that a bicycle, which is a function, it is meant to function in a typical way that it will take you, and you will ride on that, right? But a bicycle, which can be folded into 3 pieces, and then it's just also acting as a chair for you whenever you want it on the streets. When you fold it into multi-fold or a 3-fold, how does it help?
Right. So it's like
Right.
the functionality of a particular product.
Exactly.
How it can be utilized in multiple ways.
Multiple ways, and the minute you change the folding, and the
Yeah.
minute you've got that kind of flexibility, today it's just doing only one activity, right? And if you have come up with that kind of innovation into certain fixatures, fixing those nuts and bolts, and it is more flexible, and you came up with design, it's multi-folded, and you can use it whenever you want it as a bicycle, but you also can fold it into 3-fold, and that can become a small, chair or a moda or a kind of thing for you whenever you want to sit. That's a very interesting way of bringing functional innovation to it, right? So that means its functions are elevated. Not only, it's not limited only as a bicycle today. When you do that kind of process to a bicycle process, its functional list of functions has been increased.
Right.
And what is it multifolded benefit? The benefit is you're not trying to look out for a parking space, right? It can be folded and put it into any corner of a house.
Right.
Not necessarily, and it also reducing, if at all it's a very high end of good bicycle, like it can cost in Indian currency, a French made bicycle of a gear bicycle, it can cost 5 to 6 lakhs for me, and it's almost equal to a car that I'm going to own, because 5 to 6 lakhs is a good amount of money in Indian currency. So I want to take care of its safety and security also, right? So what is it? It's solving problems of different types of problems that it can come with that kind of a cost of a bike, and I can put it. Now I'm not looking for a place to um, park my cycle, right? And I can put it into my own big van or a car. So what is it? It's solving so many things at one go, because the functionality has changed, only not as a standing bicycle, but it has the very dimension of it changed. Then the ultimate facilities are getting changed, and the problems that it was attached with certain things when it is only a standing cycle is got erased. Agree?
Right. I completely agree. Thank you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
process innovation would be more to do with your internal processes, or
Yes. Process is more internal, like if you're what do you call, manufacturing processes which has got more sophisticated, and they are not using certain chemicals or certain kind of processes anymore, because that may leave certain bad impact. That's for health, that's for safety also, to simplify. So it's like you're trying to talk in terms of a different level of sophistication even in the processes, right? Earlier certain kind of metals were used,
Sure.
either into manufacturing or into colors, or even in textiles. Today, we are also asking what kind of you maybe we are liking the colors just because they're very flashy and they're very good, and then they're looking very design worthy. But today, we're also very conscious, how is it made out of? What kind of combinations went into to make this kind of color? If it is toxic to my skin, I don't want this color. So you're asking for that, right?
Yeah.
When you're asking for that, then that means there should be a process deviation into it. There should be a more foolproof process which helps the skin, which helps the customer to be more healthy in the cloth that he is wearing, than dominating aspect called fashion. Of course, fashion should also comes with health and safety for the skin. So these are certain aspects which is going, everything is being thought in process of multi-fold level of a benefit and a value proposition to the customer in whichever way that he is buying, whatever it is. The bigger concern is that, and the more you try to think in terms of, we are trying to talk about empathizing with the customers' needs and aspirations, the way they would like to experience the product or the process. Did I answer that? Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Now, what do we expect it to do as continuation? That's a good question. And I think we dwell upon it very interestingly, right? So who are we solving for, basically? Let's say that some issues of African societies are different from some issues of Japanese societies, right? So they want to have a pet dog, and the pet dog they want to have because it's becoming the societies. I will try to tell something over here. So German or the Japanese and some of the industrialized societies are now becoming very lonely societies because they don't have the babies. They don't have the children. They don't have the younger population more. So it's a more old generation which is fighting out. And then that's where the generations are becoming very lonely. So when you say that it's becoming very lonely, to make their lives much more comfortable, a lot of other kind of interventions or the other kind of products are being, designed and brought in, or each same product that whatever they are using, conversational, transaction-based products, which gives them experience that they're feeling that there's somebody talking to them, if I'm making it. So in some societies where the societies are becoming lonely and their children are not coming back to them and they only meet on Father's Day or Mother's Day. And by the way, very sorry, I should have said it in the morning, in the beginning itself, Happy Mother's Day. Today I happen to be, so I just mentioned Happy Mother's Day. So I think in some societies, only they have their own children coming to them, and then that loneliness, they're trying to find some solace with every product that they're actually using. So if it is a conversational or a transaction based, so let us say that if that particular product is talking to them back, it's giving them some solace, that as if they're talking to somebody instead of just the whole day they're spending almost lonely, not talking to anyone. So that's where the high demand is for making a product speak back to the customer. Are you getting what I'm trying to say? Right? So the transaction is not that I'm just opening the bottle, or I'm just opening the bag. It converses with me. So conversation with the customer is a high priority in some societies where the societies have become lonely. Now that is what making the design thinking people to empathize with the customers, to the people of those societies where the need is not only product, not only the process, one more feature and one more requirement because of the social construct and the social society's concern, because it needs more interaction. So conversational apps or a conversational experience with the product that it gives has become one of the norms for certain markets to enter, because that market is becoming lonely because of their demographics and population sizes and so on, right? So that's where we would like to think in terms of who you are solving for. That's one thing. Next one is what their needs are, basically. Is it doable for you if you list out? Okay. And then why your work matters. Okay. Let's say that if a shampoo is being used, a shampoo manufacturing, I don't think that in India any shampoo manufacturer has started writing in Braille on the shampoo bottle, because you are not expecting that a blind person would use it. Why? So what is there in not writing it, right? What's the harm in giving that kind of feature also? Because you never know who's going to use your shampoo, right? So that means what? Empathizing the customer and customer's needs let us say that they don't have the eyesight every time, they may not have the spectacles. So why not you give it in the big letters? So some things which are very important. So what are their needs? No? In some societies, the physically challenged and the spastic children, or they do have some eyesight issues. So maybe they have more percentage of blind people in certain societies, or even if they don't have a bigger percentage, I've seen some countries do have, if you have eyesight challenges, they call it eyesight challenges. If you have a vision, problems, then you can buy the same shampoo which is being printed with the a bigger letters onto it, or the same material or the same product can also have a different package where you can read happily with big words. Or if you are a complete blind person, you can just write the ingredients or the composition of those things which is printed onto the package in the braille. How interesting it is. That's a very, very a different need of an individual, of a different set of people from the same society, because varieties of walks of people of the society that you are facilitating, that you are supposed to benefit them, is what you're supposed to look at. Then that's what we discuss in what their needs are, what types of needs, and what kind of people that you're going to think that you will be able to facilitate, right? And how will you solve them? That's the biggest question. What are you going to do to solve those issues? What are you going to bring in to solve those issues? What kind of extra features that you're going to add, which will definitely have an impact on the brand and the process, on the customer experience, and the benefit them in a very way what your previous variant has not benefited them. That's where you think in terms of how will you solve them. Next, why is your work matters? Why do you want to do it? Is it to enhance your market share? Is it to tell them that you do have your concern for your customers? Is it a corporate social responsibility? Is it your CSR activity? Or is it that you're going to make use of this process as one of your positioning or a branding of yours in a very different way? So why is the biggest question, because that brings, are you ready to spend that kind of money to put in yourself into a different level of an R&D, a different level of a design thinking, different level of a process, and all put together, it costs you money. So why is also a very good discussion to think and to evolve in those discussion and make it sure that, yes, I'm going ahead with this process to commence. Okay, next slide, please.
Ma'am, I'm sorry, I have a question. I just missed in between. Can we kindly go to the previous slide, ma'am?
Yeah.
Yeah, ma'am, here, so you've got these hexagons and you've got what, how, why, and who. So if we look at the hexagons, we relate it to these what, how, why, and who, right? So
Yeah.
the design part would come under what, and ideate, prototype, and test would come under how? Is it like that? And the storytelling part has been kept aside now. The reason, I mean, why did we kind of separate it out?
Yeah, okay. Storytelling is always is after you do it or while you're doing it, you're making it to your own internal teams and also to the external community or the customers, saying that, why did I do this?
Okay.
Right? So you're trying to talk about your product, that why did you change? Let's say that your Apple is bringing new versions of it. Why is it doing? When is it talking to you? It's talking after it has finished its process inside. It's not talking in the beginning of to you, although it declares that we are going to come with a new version, but the whole thing is going to narrate it to you as a storytelling after it has done the entire process as a complete, circle. Yes.
That's right.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Now, this is interesting part. A lot of design thinking interventions have taken the help of origami, which is the one of the a beautiful artistic way of folding papers, is originated from Japan. Every child is being taught how to fold a paper, The idea is nothing is a waste. From anything, you can make anything out of it. And everything can be a beautifully reshaped and you can give a beautiful look to it. I saw from my own experience the way I have seen it because I lived there and I worked there in Japan. So children or even um, our own age group people, adults, when you eat a chocolate, you're usually throwing the wrapper. But I've seen them because they all have been taught origami in their childhood. So they will definitely make some object out of that kind of chocolate wrapper and you give a shape to it and that's there on the table. And very interestingly, you wouldn't like to throw it away. If it is just a wrapper, you would throw it away. But now that it is being put into a different shape by giving an artistic way of folding, so you don't throw it. So this is how the origami, when I looked at it, it's very, very interesting. But today, when you see all the multinationals and all the engineering designs have taken origami as one of the biggest tool for them, and lot many features and so many prototypes have come out of using origami as a technique, right? Now, for example, here I'm showing a bottle which can be collapsed and then be reused. That means you're using that kind of material which is flexible to the design and you can collapse it and then reopen it and it becomes a bottle. Instead, it is not a static shape that will be heavy on your bag. You can actually collapse it, which is interesting for the people those are commuting on a daily basis, right? Next one, if you want to have a room or if you want to have a kind of partition, or if you want to really build something, you don't have to take the whole material in a big slides of it. All you have to do is you just have to give a shape to it and then connect it in a different way that the design is being providing the connections, and you get a model or you get a kind of elevation straight away in front of you. That's the second one. And the black one, the third one that you are seeing over here is, that's a very interesting innovation. I have just given some video clippings into the presentation. Please do watch them. This is where the NASA has used origami based, the origami design. Of course, the material is different, but the design is coming from the thought of an origami, and it opens up and it gets collapsed automatically into the operations of the spacecraft. And when it is in need of taking some kind of pictures, you have a great light emitting from various parts of the galaxies. So it's not able to take it seems. So that's the reason. Suddenly, when you want that light to be given a shadow, you don't have anything else. So this one gets detected by automatically. And the minute it gets detected, the minute it's get detected with the light, and then this particular round shaped thing, okay, so that gets deactivated from the original spacecraft thing, and then that gets automatically get open like an umbrella, and then it'll act as a umbrella or a shadowing that light where the spacecraft can take the pictures without any blur effect. It's a very interesting innovation process which is being used in the NASA. Okay, next one, please. Okay, you can click on origami engineering or robogami. Both are okay. Origami structures. You can start with origami engineering, please. The last one. Can you click on that?
Ma'am, I'm unable to share the whole screen. Just Give me a moment.
Yeah, sure.
Engineers are turning to origami for
Is my screen visible to everybody?
Yes, yes.
inspiration for all types of applications. Engineers are turning to origami for inspiration for all types of applications, from medical devices to space applications, and even stopping bullets. But why is it that this ancient art of paper folding is so useful for modern engineering? Origami, literally folding paper, dates back at least 400 years in Japan, but the number of designs was limited. There were only a handful of patterns, maybe 100, 200 total in Japan. Nowadays, there are tens of thousands that have been documented, and most of that change happened in the 20th century. There were a handful of Japanese origami masters, and by far the most successful of them was a man named Akira Yoshisawa, who created thousands of new designs, wrote many, many books of his works. And his work inspired a worldwide renaissance of origami creativity. Well, I wanted to fold a cactus. The first thing one needed to do is figure out, how do I get spines on a cactus? So you can imagine, if I can make 2 spines here, I could do the same thing, make a whole row. Then I can go back, do a complete design. That's what this is. and this is actually, the cactus and the pot are from a single sheet of paper. Paper's green on one side, red on the other. The whole thing is a single sheet of paper. This is one uncut square of paper. How big was that piece of paper? And this is about a 1 meter square. So there is a huge amount of size reduction to go from a meter down to here. But you need that to get all of the spines. And how long did that take to make? That took about 7 years from start to finish. Wow. Why is origami this thing that was created for aesthetics mainly? Why is it so useful, I guess, is the question. For like, structural things that were for mechanical engineering or space applications. Like, why does it find itself in so many of these applications? Why is it so useful? Well, the thing that makes origami useful is it is a way of transforming a flat sheet into some other shape with relatively little processing. This is a folded pattern. It's called a triangulated cylinder. It is bistable, meaning it's stable in 2 positions. This is one, and then if I give it a twist, this is the other. This really has a bunch of bistable mechanisms in it because you can see how it sort of pops into place. But if you combine the 2 mechanisms going in different directions, then you get the sort of magical color change. Yeah, that's impressive. So you look at this and you say, okay, that is a cute paper toy. Is it anything more than that? And the answer is yes. Does that turn into that? That turns into that. Yep. We're working with a company called Surgical that does the surgical robot. Insert a flexible catheter with the robot, but the flexible catheter can buckle and stuff. So we had developed these origami bellows, but if you look down there, there's a hole that no matter how far we move this, that stays the same size on the inside. And what that means is we put the catheter in there, And as the catheter moves and it's getting inserted into the body, it still has supports along the way. Or for another example, here I have a foldable, bulletproof, collapsible wall. It's based on the Yoshimura crease pattern. Okay, so if I make this out of a bulletproof material, it can be very compact in a police officer's car and deploy out and pull.
There's no voice. I think voice is not there.
Ma'am, should I continue or stop it here?
It's okay. 220. One more bite.
Stronger without actually thinner metal.
I think will come.
But for engineering applications, the more common challenge is how to fold thick, rigid materials. This is polypropylene.
Yes.
Very rigid. There's no way that I'm going to be able to fold that into this vertex. So this is an example that shows a couple things. Surrogate folds we can use to replace the creases, and then also that piece of polypropylene folds up and it also accommodates the thickness. By cutting or scoring materials and adding hinges as necessary, thick, rigid materials can, in effect, be folded. This is useful, for example, in deploying solar panels. This pattern is perhaps the granddaddy of deployable structures, called the Miura Ori. It's been used for solar arrays. In fact, it was one of the first patterns that flew on a space mission back in 1995. It was called the Space Flyer mission. As you see here, it all opens and closes in a single motion. And when it flattens, it's very thin and
This is interesting, actually.
in improving the aerodynamics of freight locomotives. The thing with freight locomotives is, they're just like bricks going down the track, so their aerodynamics are horrible. Ideally, I'd like to have a nose cone in front of a freight locomotive to improve the aerodynamics, but you can't because they're like Lego blocks. They're hooked up anywhere along the train. You don't know if it's the first one or the second one or the third one. Here's a scaled prototype showing a pattern that we demonstrated on a freight locomotive. It folds up to be very flat, but then deploys out. And it turns out our computer models and wind tunnel testing show that this will save this one company multiple millions of dollars a year. This is a violin. It was one of my favorite mechanism designs because he fiddles. Fantastic. Functional motions of origami are inspiring new designs for devices, like compliant mechanisms that can complete full 360-degree rotations. Unlike a traditional mechanisms with bearings or hinges, I can hook on a motor and I can get continuous revolution. I couldn't do that with a compliant mechanism. But it turns out no one bothered to tell the paper folders that, and created a continuously revolving compliant mechanism, which is called a kaleidoscope. Origami motions are also being used in medical devices. These would be, the creases in the paper
And we have here now forceps. And so what's nice about this is we can put this at a smaller scale, right, on a medical instrument, go into the body, but then can morph and become the grippers. It would be a very small incision, but then go ahead and do some more complex tasks inside the body.
A variant of this mini gripper is now being used in robotic surgeries, replacing the previous mechanism and reducing the number of parts by 75%. The origami-inspired device is smaller, but with a wider range of motion. And functional origami can be miniaturized even further.
This is the world's smallest origami flapping bird.
Sounds cool.
This one was devoted to developing techniques to make microscopic self-folding origami. And what you see here is a microscope photo of the finished bird, but what the bird actually looks like, well,
I'll need my macro lens.
you'll probably need not just your macro lens, you'll need your microscope, because it's smaller than a grain of salt. So it started out, it was a bit less than a millimeter square, but when it's folded, it's much, much smaller. Wow. Now, you might ask yourself, what would anyone ever use a microscopic flapping bird for? And the answer is, well, nothing for a flapping bird. But there are medical devices, medical applications, implants that are microscopic, where you might want a little machine.
This is a nanoinjector used in gene therapy to deliver DNA to cells. It's only 4 micrometers thick, so 400 of them can fit onto a 1 centimeter wide computer chip.
There's some things down there that kind of look a bit Star Wars to me. Yes, are called elliptic infinity. And we wanted to do that in material other than paper. You see this from flat into that elliptic infinity shape.
This is actually a lamp that's made from a single sheet. So it comes in an envelope like this. Cable in, hold it, add a clip. Now this relies on a lot of math. The curvature of these lines affects links, the bending and curvature here to here to here. All of these are coupled, and pretty much the only way to design them and get all the folds to play together is by following mathematical methods. My professional background is mathematics, physics. I did
Okay,
laser.
they can watch it. Thank you. We can stop over here, Ritu.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. So that's about origami engineering. So a lot of medical devices, NASA applications, ISRO also doing, and the selected YouTube video clippings would give you a great deal of understanding. You can go ahead. Okay.
I think this is the last slide.
Yeah, this is the last one. Yes. So you people can go ahead and watch in your private time. And because I'm a big fan of origami engineering, because it's solving so many problems, let it be a bigger position, bigger objects to tiny nano micro objects of origami. It's all about the intervention of oldest traditional way of folding things. And that's helping the design thinking to do great objects and great products, processes, inventions to solve many more problems on the engineering front as well as other research fronts. So there will be a phenomenal growth in the area of design thinking as our technology is going to be more friendly, and it's going to advance. We are going to advance even more further into multi-fold level as we are progressing, and we are just in 2022. If at all we are going to talk in 23 or 24, the same design thinking has to get more examples, because by then we must have seen so many fantastic innovations through the design thinking and also with the help of origami and engineering. Okay. I think with this, I'll close over here. Is it fine? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you all. Thanks for bearing this today.
Thank you, ma'am.